I don't want you to embarrass me at the anniversary, her husband said, glancing at his wife's new dress. Don't you dare come to our company party. When he returned from the anniversary, he stood in shock. Rachel was standing in front of the mirror in the spacious wardrobe of their country house. The large Venetian glass and a heavy mahogany frame mercilessly reflected every wrinkle, every crease that had appeared over the years. She ran her hand through her dark hair, recently dyed at the salon. The platinum strands shimmered beautifully in the morning sun, which filtered through the light curtains. Their house in the woods was considered one of the most beautiful in the neighborhood. 3 floors, finished with light stone, a spacious veranda with wicker furniture, a well-kept yard with alpine slides and a rose garden, all of this had once been the source of her pride and daily care. Now, however, the huge house seemed too empty and cold. Rachel sifted through the hangers with elegant dresses, preparing for her husband's company anniversary party. God, when was the last time we went somewhere together? Flashed through her mind. It seemed like it was at last year's New Year's party. Clark had spent the whole evening on his phone, exchanging maybe 2 sentences with her. The phone softly chimed with a message from Chloe. So, what's the verdict, my friend? Have you decided on the outfit? Rachel sighed heavily and dialed her number. Chloe, I'm completely confused. I don't like anything. Everything seems either too young or, on the contrary, ages me, she said, sitting down on a small bench by the vanity. Why are you stressing? You're only 42. And you look great after our spa marathon, her friend cheerfully responded. You know, Chloe, it's not just about the dress. Clark and I have become like strangers. We live in the same house, but it's like we're in parallel worlds. I don't even remember the last time he looked at me. Not like before, Rachel felt her voice betray her, trembling. Okay, stop. No time for self-pity. In an hour, I'll pick you up, and we'll head to a new boutique. I saw some amazing dresses there, you'll love them. And we'll also have lunch at that cute little restaurant, Chloe decisively commanded. Rachel smiled, looking at her reflection. Maybe my friend is right, something needs to change. She glanced one more time at the wardrobe, where every item was perfectly in place, everything neatly folded and hung. Just like her life, seemingly flawless, but so empty inside. Enough, she said decisively, reaching for her handbag. It was time for a change, and a new dress was just the beginning. On the way to the boutique, Rachel watched the autumn landscape whiz by outside the window, and memories flooded her with a warm wave. 20 years ago, everything was completely different. She clearly remembered that day in the student cafe, the smell of freshly brewed coffee, the soft music, and the laughter of her friends at their favorite windowside table. Girls, look who's coming. Amanda whispered, nudging her with her elbow. Rachel looked up and met the gaze of a tall, dark-haired guy. He smiled so openly and confidently that it took her breath away. Hi. Can I buy you a coffee? He asked, looking directly at Rachel. I'm Clark, I'm from the architecture department. She remembered how her fingers trembled when she held her cup, as he enthusiastically talked about his projects, sketching something on a napkin. After that meeting, everything spun like a magical carousel. Clark waited for her after classes with a bouquet of wildflowers. She still remembered their delicate scent. They walked through the evening city, hand in hand, making future plans, kissing in the drizzling rain by the metro. Do you remember when you proposed to me? She asked him recently, but Clark just nodded absent-mindedly, not looking up from his phone. But it was so romantic. He had taken her to the roof of the main university building, where a small table was already set with candles and champagne. Will you be my wife? He asked, holding out a simple ring with a small diamond. Of course, she said yes. The wedding was modest. They were both still students. Rachel wore a simple white dress bought with money saved from her scholarship. Clark borrowed a suit from his older brother. But they were so happy. They rented a small room in a communal apartment, mostly ate pasta, but every evening became a celebration when they were together. Then Dave was born. Rachel smiled, remembering how Clark ran around the maternity ward with a huge bouquet of roses. A son. "I have a son," he shouted on the phone to his parents right in the hallway. How tenderly he held the tiny bundle, afraid to move too much. Their first own apartment was a one-bedroom in an old 5-story building on the outskirts of the city. Clark did the repairs himself in the evenings after work. Rachel still remembered the smell of fresh paint and his stained hands when he hugged her, proudly showing off another wall he had finished. "You know, we were happy then," she whispered, looking at an old photo on her phone. In it, the three of them, tired but happy, sat on the floor in an empty apartment, surrounded by boxes of things. Dave, still a little baby, enthusiastically played with a paint roller, covered in paint. "What did you say?" Chloe asked, slowing down at the traffic light. "Nothing," Rachel wiped away an unsolicited tear. "I was just thinking. You know, back then we had nothing, no money, no connections, only love and dreams. And now we have everything, except for the most important thing." "Hey, girlfriend, don't get all melancholic," Chloe patted her knee. "We're going to pick you out a stunning dress, not wallow in sadness." Rachel nodded, but in her mind, the image of young Clark remained, with his burning eyes, his constant smile, his plans to change the world. Where did it all go? And when did they lose that most important thing they were once willing to face any challenge for? The new boutique in the city center welcomed them with muted lighting and soft music. Rachel involuntarily shivered, surrounded by such expensive and elegant items that she felt uncomfortable. "Good afternoon. How may I help you?" An elegant consultant in her middle years approached them, assessing the potential customers with a professional glance. "We need an evening dress for a corporate event." "Something special," Chloe replied confidently, nudging Rachel forward. "We just got a new collection," the consultant brightened, leading them deeper into the hall. "Let's start with these models." Rachel obediently tried on one outfit after another. Dark blue, too formal; red, too flashy; black, ages me. "Maybe that's enough?" she prayed after the 10th dress. "Wait." The consultant disappeared between the rows and returned with something soft lilac. "Try this." Rachel skeptically looked at the flowing fabric but obediently went into the fitting room. Zipping up the dress, she lifted her eyes to her reflection and froze. The dress fit perfectly, the light silk beautifully outlining her figure, the color enhancing her skin, and the skillful accents creating the right illusions. "Rachel, come out," Chloe called impatiently. She stepped out, feeling unsure, but seeing the admiring looks from both her friend and the consultant, she realized this was the one. "Now shoes and a clutch," Chloe commanded. "And don't even think about arguing, this is my gift." By evening, they had picked the full ensemble, elegant silver pumps with a medium heel, a small matching bag, and a delicate necklace with amethysts. And now, off to the salon, Chloe decisively led her friend to the car. "We can't stop halfway." At the beauty salon, Rachel was literally transformed. A new haircut with light layering framed her face perfectly, and platinum strands, skillfully woven into her dark hair, gave the look a special sophistication. The makeup was light but highlighted all her features, expressive eyes, beautiful cheekbones, and the soft oval of her face. "You know what's the most important?" Chloe said as they drove home. You're smiling again. For real. At home, Rachel tried on the dress once more, now with her new hairstyle and makeup. The woman who looked back at her from the mirror was beautiful and confident. It felt like she had shed the weight of the years, a forgotten sparkle returned to her eyes, and a gentle smile played on her lips. "Thank you, Chloe," she whispered, sending her friend a message. The reply came, "You're the most beautiful. You'll see, everything will be fine." Rachel carefully hung the dress in the wardrobe and ran her hand over the delicate fabric. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly beautiful and desired. Maybe these changes are really for the best. In the evening, Rachel heard the front door slam. Clark had returned. She critically examined herself one last time in the mirror, fixed her hair, and went down to the living room. Her heart was pounding traitorously. How would he react to her transformation? "Clark, are you home?" she called as she entered the room. Her husband was sitting in his favorite leather chair, scrolling through something on his phone. He looked up at her entrance and froze. "What's this now?" His voice sounded more irritated than surprised. "Where are you going all dressed up?" I was preparing for the company anniversary." Rachel felt her voice tremble. "I wanted to make you happy." Clark slowly rose from the chair. His gaze swept over her figure, but there was no admiration in it, just a cold, evaluating look, almost contemptuous. "Make me happy?" he sneered. "And you think these cheap sparkles in your hair and that sale dress are going to make you look younger?" "But, Clark," she started, feeling a lump rise in her throat. "You know who you look like?" He approached her, and the mixture of his cologne and whiskey scent made her dizzy. A withered flower that someone's trying to revive with cheap makeup. Like an old doll, dressed inappropriately for her age. Each word was like a slap in the face. Rachel stood frozen, unable to move, feeling a tear roll down her cheek, smearing the carefully applied makeup. "You think I don't see those wrinkles?" he continued, seemingly oblivious to her condition. "That sagging skin? In your age, you should know better. Some outfits just look ridiculous." "Stop," she whispered, wrapping her arms around herself. "Please, stop." "And what should I stop?" He turned away, heading to the bar. "Look at yourself, trying to look like you're 20. Pathetic and sad." Pouring himself whiskey, he kept talking, each word breaking her hopes. "You know how many young and beautiful girls work at my company? They have a natural beauty, not this." He waved his hand in her direction, a pathetic parody of youth. Rachel slowly sank onto the couch, feeling her entire world crumble. The new dress she had been so proud of suddenly seemed tasteless and ridiculous. She tried to wipe away the tears, but only smeared her mascara further. "And one more thing." Clark finished his whiskey and turned to her. "Don't even think about showing up at the anniversary like this. I don't want my partners to see this," he said, with a disdainful gesture. A demonstration of despair. With those words, he headed upstairs, leaving her alone in the living room. Rachel sat frozen, staring at her reflection in the dark window. Her beautiful hairstyle had fallen apart, her makeup smeared by tears. Now, she really did look like a withered flower, broken and trampled by his merciless words. With trembling hands, she took her phone and dialed Chloe's number. "Chloe," she whispered, her voice trembling with tears. "Can you come over?" Locking herself in her home office, Rachel wiped away the smeared makeup with shaking hands. Her tear-streaked face with red blotches stared back at her from the mirror. "God, I'm such a fool," she whispered, gripping the phone tightly. "He said I look like a withered flower." "Chloe." Her voice cracked as she recounted what had happened. He said I look pathetic and ridiculous in this dress. Hold on, Chloe's voice rang with steel. Wash your face and pull yourself together. I'll be right over, and we'll check where your husband is off to at this hour. What are you talking about? Rachel sobbed. I'm talking about the fact that decent husbands don't come home smelling of whiskey in the middle of the work week. And they don't humiliate their wives for no reason. Chloe cut her off. Wait for me. Half an hour later, they were sitting in Chloe's car near the white restaurant where Clark's company's anniversary party was taking place. Rachel had changed into jeans and a dark jacket, wrapping her hair in a scarf. Look, Chloe nodded toward the entrance. Clark was just getting out of a taxi, but not alone. A young red-haired woman in a short red dress was fluttering around him. She was chattering something, playfully leaning against his shoulder. This is Alice, his new assistant, Rachel muttered, feeling everything inside her freeze. He said he hired her a month ago. They sat in the car for almost an hour, watching through the large windows of the restaurant as Clark danced with Alice, leaning towards her ear, whispering something, his hand casually gliding over her waist. Now it's clear why he got so mad about my dress, Rachel bitterly smirked. I would have ruined his evening just by showing up. Chloe silently squeezed her hand. At that moment, they saw Clark and Alice leave the restaurant. He held her by the waist, helping her into the taxi, and then he kissed her. Long, passionately, with no attempt to hide it. Let's get out of here, Rachel quietly asked, turning away from the window. The last thing she saw was the taxi with her husband and his mistress disappearing into the night city. You know, she said when they were approaching the house, he's right. I really do look like a wilting flower. But she didn't wither because of time, it was his indifference that did it. Chloe parked the car near Rachel's house. A heavy silence hung in the air. The scene at the restaurant was still vivid in Rachel's mind, how Clark gently held Alice by the waist, how she threw her head back, laughing loudly at his jokes, how their lips merged in a long kiss. 20 years of marriage. Rachel whispered, staring into the darkness outside the window. 20 years, and he didn't even try to hide it. Right at the entrance to the restaurant, where everyone knows him. Sweetheart, you need to make a decision, Chloe said gently. You saw how they danced, how he whispered something in her ear, how she leaned against him. This is clearly not their first meeting. Do you know what's the scariest part? Rachel turned to her friend. I kind of guessed it. Late returns, business trips on weekends, new perfume. And today, he made me cry on purpose so I wouldn't go to the corporate event, so I wouldn't interfere with them. What are you going to do? Chloe took her hand. The words Rachel had been meaning to say for a long time came out with determination. I'm leaving. Today. At home, Rachel slowly climbed up to their bedroom. She got a suitcase and carefully packed only the essentials. Then she walked into the office and sat down at the desk. The letter was short. Clark, I saw everything today. You and Alice outside the restaurant. Now I understand why you didn't want me to come to the corporate event. You know, you're right, I really do look like a wilting flower. But I didn't wither because of age, but because of your indifference and betrayal. For 20 years, I was a loyal wife to you. I gave birth to 3 children and created comfort in the home. And you? You traded all of that for a young mistress. I'm leaving. Don't look for me. I will call the children myself. Rachel. She placed the letter on the coffee table in the living room, where Clark usually drank his morning coffee. Nearby, she removed her wedding ring, the simple gold band she had worn for 20 years. I'm ready, she said as she got into the car with Chloe, who had been waiting for her. Let's go to your place. Are you sure? Her friend looked at her carefully. Absolutely, Rachel fastened her seatbelt. You know, I suddenly feel so relieved. Like a stone has fallen off my soul. The car started moving. Rachel didn't look back at the house where she had lived for so many years. Deep down, she knew it was the end of her story with Clark. But maybe it was the beginning of her new life. Chloe's apartment welcomed them with warmth and coziness. Make yourself at home, her friend gestured to the spacious guest room. You can stay with me until you figure out what to do next. The first morning without Clark felt strange. Rachel woke up early out of habit, automatically reaching to make breakfast. And froze. Now, there was no need to rush, no need to adjust to someone else's schedule. Mom, how are you? Dave called. Apparently, he had already read the message she sent to the children the night before. I knew something had happened when Dad didn't come home. I'm okay, sweetie, her voice betrayed her, trembling. It's just, this is better. You know, after a pause, her son said, I saw him with Alice last week at the cafe. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. The twins called in the evening via video call. Sarah and Gwen, so similar in appearance but so different in character, were reassuring their mom, telling her she was the best, and that Dad was a fool. Girls, don't say that, Rachel sighed. He's still your father. After the conversation with the kids, she felt lighter. Their support gave her strength, and the next morning, Rachel opened her laptop and started browsing job vacancies. Listen, why don't you go back to your profession? Chloe suggested at breakfast. You're an economist by education. After 20 years of being away, Rachel smiled sadly. Who would need me? Don't talk nonsense, Chloe snapped. I just happen to need an assistant marketer at my agency. You start, and you'll get into it. The days flowed in a new rhythm. In the morning, Rachel studied modern marketing tools, in the afternoon, she attended interviews, and in the evening, she had long conversations with Chloe over a cup of tea. Clark called after a week. Rachel, let's talk, his voice sounded tired. I'll explain everything. There's nothing to explain, Clark, she replied calmly. Just tell me when to file for divorce. He was silent for a long time. Then he quietly asked, Are you sure? Absolutely, she pressed the hang-up button and smiled for the first time in many days. It was as if the last thread connecting her to the past had broken. In the evening, Sarah came over, bringing Rachel's favorite blanket from home. You know, said her daughter, hugging her, I haven't seen you like this in a long time. Alive. You've woken up. Rachel hugged her daughter in return. Yes, she really was waking up, to a new life, to new opportunities. And though it was still scary and uncertain, for the first time in years, she felt truly free. Her first day at the marketing agency started with a slight panic. The office greeted her with hustle and bustle, the hum of voices, and an unfamiliar atmosphere. Young employees darted around with laptops, discussing projects, using terms she didn't understand. Rachel, come on in, Wendy, the department head, greeted her with a friendly smile. I'll introduce you to the team and bring you up to speed. Her workspace was next to Clark, a cheerful guy about 25, who immediately offered to help set up her computer. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it quickly, he encouraged her, noticing the confused look on her face as she stared at the many open programs. Targeted ads, SEO optimization, conversion. Rachel jotted down unfamiliar terms in her notebook, feeling like a first grader. In the evening, her head buzzed from all the information. How was your first day? Chloe asked, peeking into her department before leaving. Awful, Rachel admitted honestly. It's like I'm on another planet. Everyone speaks in some language of their own, and I couldn't even set up the corporate email without help. But you're not going to give up, right? Her friend squinted at her. No, Rachel shook her head firmly. I'll manage. Every evening, she stayed up late working on training courses, watching webinars, reading professional literature. Clark patiently explained how to work with the programs, and Stella, a young specialist from the next department, helped her understand the analytics. Rachel, you came up with a great idea for this newsletter, Stella said one day, reviewing her first independent project. Such a heartfelt text, it really hits home. Really? Rachel couldn't hide her joy. It turned out that her experience with people, her ability to sense their needs, was exactly what young specialists sometimes lacked. Her first significant success came after a month. She was trusted with a small project, an advertising campaign for a chain of family cafes. Rachel poured her heart into it, using both her new knowledge and her life experience. Awesome! Wendy was thrilled with the presentation. You really captured what our target audience needs. The client is ecstatic. In the evening, the team celebrated the success at a small bar. To our new marketing guru. Clark raised a glass. Rachel smiled shyly, looking at her young colleagues. They had accepted her, taught her, and supported her. You know what's cool about you? Stella said when they were about to leave for home. You're not afraid to learn new things. Many people at your age wouldn't have dared to do it, Chloe said. At home, Rachel stood in front of the mirror for a long time. In the reflection, she saw another woman, tired, but happy. Her eyes sparkled with a new light, excitement, and interest in life, and confidence in herself. The phone rang. Mom, how are you doing? Are you managing? Guess what, son, Rachel laughed. Your mom made her first targeted ad today. I don't quite understand how it works yet, but I'm proud of you, Dave said, his voice full of genuine affection. You're the strongest. As she was falling asleep, Rachel thought about how much her life had changed over the last month. The fear and insecurity hadn't disappeared, but now they were giving way to a desire to move forward, to learn, and to develop. I can do it, she whispered as she fell asleep. And for the first time in a long while, it wasn't just a phrase, but a firm belief. 2 months later, Rachel decided it was time to start living independently. Chloe helped her find a cozy 2-room apartment in a quiet neighborhood, small but bright, with a view of a park. This is so me, Rachel sighed when she first entered the apartment. High ceilings, large windows, light oak parquet, all of it was perfect for a new life. The process of furnishing the apartment became a real therapy. No heavy curtains or dark furniture like Clark had liked. Now everything was light, airy, light walls, translucent curtains, and live plants on the windowsills. Mom, it suits you, Gwen said while helping her hang pictures. You look like you've gotten younger. And indeed, Rachel was changing. She bought a yoga studio membership with her first paycheck, which was near the apartment. At first, it was hard, her muscles were unaccustomed to exercise, but gradually, her body became more flexible, her posture straighter. Try to relax, said Sarah, the yoga instructor. Breathe deeply. And Rachel breathed, feeling the tension of the past months melt away, with every cell of her body filling with energy. Then came painting. It all started by accident. Walking past an art store, she saw a set of watercolor paints in the window. Something tugged at her soul, and she remembered how much she had loved art classes in school. Her first works were unsure, still lives, views from the window. But gradually, her hand became steadier and the colors more vibrant. She learned to express her feelings on paper. A sunny morning in the park, rain outside the window, a bouquet of wildflowers in an old vase. When I paint, it's like I dissolve into the process, she shared with Chloe. I forget everything else. Changes also affected her appearance. The habit of hunching over, as if trying to become invisible, disappeared. She developed a light step, a confident gaze. She started wearing bright colors, which she had once thought were too bold for her. "Rachel, you're really glowing," Stella said at work one day. "Did you fall in love with life or something?" Rachel smiled. And that was the truth. She had fallen in love, with her morning runs in the park, with the scent of paints and freshly brewed coffee, with quiet evenings by the window with a book. In the old house, not only were there things left behind, but also the habit of living someone else's life, adjusting to others' desires. Now, every morning started with a smile at her reflection in the mirror. "Good morning, new me." And the lavender dress, which had once been the last straw, now hung in the closet as a reminder. Sometimes you need to lose everything to find your true self. From mutual acquaintances, Rachel learned news about Clark. After she left, he moved Alice into their country house, thinking he had finally found the freedom and youth he longed for. But it quickly became clear that his 25-year-old mistress was not at all ready to play the role of the lady of the house. The impeccable order that Rachel had maintained for years began to fall apart. Dirty dishes piled up in the sink, the flowers in the garden dried up, and meals were replaced with takeout from restaurants. Can you imagine, Rachel, who had loved it so much, the garden is all overgrown with weeds now. And this girl doesn't even know how to approach the pruners, Rachel thought. Alice tried to create an atmosphere of eternal celebration in the house, noisy parties, loud music, and crowds of young friends. The neighbors grimaced when they saw the long lines of cars at the gate on weekends. "Clark, maybe we should clean up?" Alice occasionally asked in the morning, looking around the living room with scattered glasses and ashtrays. "Or maybe we should hire a housekeeper." Clark grumbled irritably as he left for work. Slowly, other problems began to surface. Clark had grown accustomed to a certain level of comfort, freshly ironed shirts, delicious dinners, a cozy home. Alice, however, considered all of this old-fashioned and tedious. Why iron shirts? Wrinkled ones are a trend. She was genuinely surprised when Clark got ready for an important meeting. He was increasingly irritated by her childishness, constant selfies, and endless talks about parties and shopping. The romance of their early meetings dissolved in the daily routine that Alice was completely unprepared for. "Honey, I'm so bored sitting at home," Alice pouted. "Let's go somewhere." "A club? A concert?" Clark was staying later and later at work, avoiding returning home, where he knew another childish tantrum from his young mistress awaited. Then the inevitable happened. At one of the parties, a young DJ named Alex appeared. "You don't understand me at all," Alice yelled during yet another argument. "Alex at least knows how to have fun, he's not a grumpy old man like you." A week later, she packed her things and left, leaving a short note, "Sorry, but we're too different. Don't look for me." Clark stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the mess left behind after their last fight. There was unfinished wine on the table, a shoe hurriedly thrown in the corner, a forgotten magazine on the couch. He suddenly realized with piercing clarity how foolish he had been to trade 20 years of true love and care for a fleeting fling with a capricious girl. Meanwhile, Rachel had been assigned an important project, the development of an advertising campaign for the restaurant chain Teplo, Warmth. She threw herself into the work, striving to make her presentation perfect. Family restaurants weren't just about food, they were about atmosphere, comfort, and a special mood. On the day of the presentation, she was nervous, like a first grader. Fixing her hair in the bathroom mirror, she sternly told her reflection, "Pull yourself together. You're a professional." When she entered the conference room, she immediately noticed him, a tall man around 50, with distinguished silver at his temples. He was sitting slightly apart from the others, carefully studying the documents. Something about his posture, his calm confidence, set him apart from the others. "Colleagues, allow me to introduce Richard Brown, the owner of the Teplo restaurant chain," Wendy announced. During the presentation, Rachel caught his attentive gaze a few times. He listened intently, occasionally making notes in his notebook. When she spoke about the importance of family values and the cozy atmosphere in the restaurant concept, he gave a barely perceptible smile. After the presentation, as everyone started to leave, Richard unexpectedly stayed behind. "I liked your approach, Rachel," he said, helping her gather the handouts from the table. "You're right, a restaurant should be a place where everyone feels at home." "Thank you," she felt her cheeks warm. "I just really believe in it." "You know," he continued, "I have a few ideas on how we could develop your concept." He took out a business card. "Maybe we could discuss them over coffee? There's a great cafe nearby." Rachel hesitated. On one hand, it was a business meeting, on the other, something in his gaze spoke of a different kind of interest. "I understand your doubts," Richard said with a soft smile. "Just a business conversation, nothing more." At the cafe, they spoke for over an hour. It turned out they had a lot in common, from a love for classical music to views on contemporary art. Richard shared that he had gone through a divorce 3 years ago, and Rachel suddenly realized that, for the first time in a long while, she was talking to a man who truly understood her. As they parted ways, he said, "You know, Rachel, I think we should discuss the project in more detail. How about a business dinner next week?" She agreed, feeling a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time spreading inside her. For the first time in years, she wanted to impress a man, not out of fear of losing him, but simply because she felt like herself when she was around him. In the evenings, while preparing for meetings with Richard, Rachel often caught herself doubting. Standing in front of the mirror, she scrutinized every wrinkle. Can someone my age really start over? Business meetings suddenly turned into long walks through the evening city. Richard turned out to be an attentive conversationalist, someone who knew how to listen, which is rare among successful men. "Mom, you've become different," Sarah noticed during a family dinner. "Your eyes are sparkling." "Girls, Rachel has decided to tell her daughters about Richard," she said. "I'm seeing someone." Finally, the twins exclaimed in unison. "You've been all work, work, work." Dave responded more calmly. "The most important thing is that you're happy, Mom. But don't rush, okay?" "Rachel, are you out of your mind?" Chloe exclaimed when her friend shared her fears. "What difference does it make, 42 or 52? The important thing is what's happening between you two." Their first real date happened on a Saturday evening. Richard invited her to a concert of classical music at the conservatory. "Just don't tell me this is a business meeting," Rachel joked as he helped her out of the car. "No," he replied seriously. "This is a date. And I'm really nervous." After the concert, they walked through the night city. Richard shared stories of his life, how he started his business, how he survived his wife's betrayal, how he learned to live again. "You know," he said, stopping at the embankment's parapet, "I haven't felt this comfortable with a woman in a long time." "And I haven't felt so alive in a long time," Rachel quietly responded. He gently took her hand, and she didn't pull away. They stood there, looking at the lights of the city, and the silence between them felt cozy and right. "Richard," she finally said, "I'm scared. I'm afraid of making a mistake again, of letting someone into my life." "I'm scared too," he replied simply. "But maybe we should take the risk, slowly, getting to know each other." That night, he kissed her for the first time, gently, almost weightlessly. And that kiss was nothing like the passionate embrace of youth. It was filled with the wisdom of lived years and hope for something new, something real. At home, Rachel couldn't sleep for a long time. Her heart was beating like a schoolgirl's, and a silly, happy smile played on her lips. Maybe it really is worth taking the risk, she thought as she drifted off to sleep. And for the first time in a long while, that question didn't evoke fear, only anticipation for something good. 6 months passed in the blink of an eye. At work, Rachel was promoted to project manager, and her natural intuition combined with the knowledge she had gained was delivering excellent results. Now she had her own small team, and she was surprised to find that she could lead effectively and easily. "Rachel, you're a born leader," Stella, who had become her right hand, once told her. "It's so comfortable working with you." Her relationship with Richard was developing slowly and harmoniously. He wasn't rushing things, but every day he made it clear how important she was to him. He would bring her favorite peonies for no reason, or leave short messages on the answering machine saying he missed her. They had created their little traditions. Every Thursday, they would go to the conservatory or the theater. Saturday breakfasts at his country house, where Rachel taught him how to make a real French omelet. Sunday walks in the park, where they could talk about everything under the sun for hours. "You know what I appreciate most in you?" Richard once said. "That you're real. You don't try to appear younger or be someone else." The kids accepted Richard surprisingly easily. Especially the twins, they appreciated his sharp humor and ability to listen. Even Dave, who had been skeptical at first, admitted after several meetings, "Mom, he's really a good guy. You're completely different with him." Rachel really had changed. The stiffness in her movements had disappeared, and she now moved with a special grace. She had learned to dress elegantly, but not old-fashioned. Chloe joked that her friend seemed to glow from within. "You know," Rachel confessed to her friend, "for the first time, I feel like a real woman. Not someone's wife or mom, just me." There was no place for jealousy or attempts to control each other in their relationship with Richard. He respected her work and hobbies, and she valued his ability to give her space. Now, music often filled her apartment in the evenings, as Richard taught her to dance. They could spend hours spinning around to old melodies, laughing at their awkward movements and enjoying each other's closeness. "Rachel," he said one day as they sat on the porch of his house, watching the sunset, "do you believe in love after 40? "Now I do," she smiled, squeezing his hand tighter. And it was true, she believed in love that comes with experience and the understanding that true happiness isn't about possessing, but simply being there for one another. Life was blooming with new colors, and Rachel finally realized that age doesn't matter when you meet someone who sees your soul, not the numbers on your passport. The meeting with Clark happened by chance at the mall. Rachel was choosing a gift for Richard when she heard a familiar voice. "Rachel, is that you?" She turned around and saw her ex-husband. Over the past year, Clark had noticeably aged. New wrinkles had appeared, and there was more gray in his hair. The clothes, always impeccably pressed by her, now looked wrinkled. "Hello, Clark," she replied calmly, feeling a strange sense of peace. Somewhere inside, she was surprised at how this person had once made her feel worthless and old. You've changed so much," he said, staring at her in confusion. "You look amazing." Rachel truly did look beautiful in her stylish cream-colored suit. Straight posture, confident gaze, a gentle smile. Everything about her spoke of inner strength and dignity. "Thank you," she smiled softly. "How are you?" "Well, I'm alone now," he hesitated. Alice left. It turned out that youth isn't the most important thing in a relationship. "Yes, that's true," Rachel agreed, recalling Richard's warm gaze. "Maybe we can grab a coffee?" Clark suddenly suggested. "Talk?" "Sorry, I'm in a hurry. I have a meeting." She glanced at her watch. "A business one?" A strange hope lingered in his voice. "No, a personal one," she replied simply. "With someone who taught me to believe in myself again." Clark turned pale. "Rachel, I've only just realized what a mistake I made. Maybe we can start over? I've changed." "Clark," she shook her head gently. "We both have changed. But now, we're each on our own path." At that moment, her phone rang. Richard was reminding her of their plans for the evening. Rachel's face lit up with such a happy smile that Clark involuntarily took a step back. "I have to go." She turned toward the exit but stopped. "You know, I'm grateful to you." "For what?" he asked, surprised. "For telling me the truth about that wilting flower a year ago. It made me wake up and start living for real." She left, leaving Clark standing in the middle of the mall. He stood there for a long time, watching her leave, realizing that he hadn't just lost a wife, he had lost an amazing woman who had bloomed even more beautifully once he let her go. And Rachel, stepping outside, took a deep breath of the spring air. She felt light at heart, the last page of her past life turned. Now she knew for sure that happiness wasn't about being young, but about being loved and true to herself. Richard proposed in their favorite coffee shop, where they had once had their first meeting. Without grand gestures or kneeling, he simply took out a small velvet box and asked, "Rachel, will you marry me?" "Yes," she answered, feeling her eyes fill with happy tears. The ring sparkled with a small sapphire, as deep and blue as the sea, where they had first said "I love you." They decided to have a small wedding, just close friends and family. In the yard of Richard's country house, they set up tables and decorated everything with fresh flowers. Rachel chose an elegant ivory dress, simple and refined at the same time. "Mom, you look so beautiful." The twins sighed in admiration, helping her with her hairstyle. "Take care of her," Dave said seriously to Richard before the ceremony. "She's special to us." "I know," Richard replied just as seriously. "Every day, I thank fate for bringing me to her." Chloe cried during the ceremony, secretly wiping away tears. "I told you everything would be fine." They went to Greece for their honeymoon. The warm sea, cozy tavernas, and leisurely walks through ancient streets. It was there that Rachel finally learned to swim, with Richard being a patient teacher. "You know," she said one evening as they sat on the balcony of their room, watching the sunset, "I never thought I could be this happy at 42. And I never thought I'd meet true love at 52, he smiled, kissing her hand. When they returned home, they started making plans. Richard suggested opening an art gallery at one of his restaurants. He had seen how Rachel's talent for painting had blossomed. She agreed, but decided not to leave her job at the agency, as that independence was important to her. On weekends, their house was filled with voices, the children came to visit, and Chloe often stopped by. They cooked lunches together, played music, and Richard had finally learned to play the guitar, delighting everyone with serenades. "We'll build a gazebo in the garden," he said dreamily. "We'll have family dinners outdoors. And I'll plant a new rose garden," Rachel added. But now, these won't just be flowers, this will be the story of our love. One day, while sorting through old things, she found that lilac dress, the one that marked the beginning of her new life. It now hung in the wardrobe as a reminder, sometimes, you have to lose everything to find your true self and meet real love. A year passed like a day. They were preparing to celebrate their first wedding anniversary in their large home. Rachel was busy in the kitchen, roasting Richard's favorite lamb with herbs, while he was hanging garlands in the garden. The gallery at the restaurant was an unexpected success. Her watercolors attracted attention with their sincerity and warmth. At the marketing agency, she became a partner, combining experience and intuition with modern knowledge to achieve excellent results. Can you imagine, she shared with Chloe, setting the table for guests, a year ago, I thought my life was over. But it was only just beginning. By evening, all the close ones had gathered. Dave came with his fiancée, having recently proposed to his college girlfriend. The twins, now university students, excitedly talked about their achievements. Richard proudly showed everyone the new gazebo, covered in wild grapes. "Mom, do you remember how you cried a year ago?" Sarah asked, hugging her mother. "And now look at you, your eyes are shining." Indeed, Rachel seemed to glow from within. She had learned to appreciate every moment, the morning coffee with Richard, when they silently read the news on their tablets, each holding hands, the evening walks through the garden where her new rose garden bloomed as magnificently as her life, the family dinners where everyone laughed and spoke at the same time. "You know what I've realized," she said to Richard one evening when they were alone on the veranda. "Fate gives us the challenges we need to grow, and to meet those who are truly meant for us," he added, kissing her hand. Somewhere deep inside the house, the phone rang. Clark was wishing the children a happy new year. Rachel smiled. It no longer caused her pain. She had long forgiven her ex-husband, realizing that his betrayal had made her wake up and start a new life. On their vanity table in the bedroom stood a special photograph. It was of them in Greece, both wet after her first swim, laughing happily. Next to it was her watercolor painting, two entwined trees against the sunset. "Never too late to plant roots again," she had written on the back. "What are you thinking about?" Richard asked, embracing her. "That happiness isn't eternal youth," she replied. "It's the wisdom to accept yourself, the courage to start over, and the luck to meet someone who sees your soul, not your age." They stood on the veranda, gazing at the stars. Ahead of them lay a whole life, perhaps not as long as youth's, but far more rare and valuable. A life where each day is a gift, and love is not the passion of youth, but a deep understanding and tenderness. The lilac dress still hung in the wardrobe, a symbol of change and a reminder that sometimes you have to lose everything to find real happiness. And that a woman's beauty doesn't fade with age, it only deepens, like aged wine or an antique painting, acquiring a special, unique charm of maturity.